Hello, and welcome back to Talking Shop, a series of fun conversations with consummate concert artists, composers, opera singers, and choreographers. Basically, my favorite people in the entire universe. I'm so excited today to have with me my dear friend, David Lai. David is a phenomenal blind pianist and teacher, renowned not only for his technical mastery and lyrical musicality, but also for his resilience and innovative learning process. He is a doctoral candidate at Indiana University and continues performing nationally, serving as an inspiration to musicians and music lovers alike. His doctoral professor, Norman Krieger of IU's Jacobs School of Music, praised David as a miracle musician-pianist and described his memorizing abilities as those of a Marvel superhero. David was featured as a Performance Today Young Artist in Residence for 2024 and 25, and also performed and was interviewed on Fred Child's national broadcast radio show, which is now hosted by Valerie Kaler. Child described David as extraordinarily well-rounded with a strong knowledge of the American songbook. He has won numerous awards, including first prize in the Mozart Concerto competition at IU, first prize at the Brevard Music Festival's Piano Solo competition, and second prize at the Boulder Bach Festival World Bach competition. There, as in almost all venues, he was an audience favorite. I met David during COVID. I believe it was at an online masterclass with Thomas Pandolfi in June of 2020. I know David to have a highly entertaining personality. I know him as a trusted and valued musical comrade, a font of knowledge about classical music as well as Broadway musicals, and an incredible and wonderful person. David, I'm so glad to have you with us today.
Hey, Lisa. Well, first of all, thank you so much for the rich introduction. I sometimes feel like I don't deserve it, but still, thank you very much. And it's great to be here.
Well, you're very welcome, and it was very sincere, I can assure you. I want to ask you, so let's start by asking you the question that I always ask my first-time guests, and that
Mhm.
is, what does being a pianist and a teacher mean to you on a personal level? How has it impacted your life?
Well, my very short one-word answer is connection.
Mm.
Let's
Tell us
break it
more about
down a
that.
little bit. Yeah, yeah. Let's break it down just a little bit. So for me, playing the piano and teaching, they both serve as a connection between me and the audience or students, and also between the audience slash students and the composition, or if you will, on a personal level, the composer. And so these two folds of connection, I feel I have a strong passion for. And it was actually through my doctoral studies at IU that I've discovered my love for teaching, and I've noticed that there are commonalities and similarities, if you will, between performance and teaching that I've discovered since the years of serving as an instructor. So going back to connection, I think that's the key for why I do what I do.
That's pretty powerful. It's a power-packed word, isn't it? I love it.
Thank you.
Your blindness was the result of a neonatal oxygen toxicity soon after your birth, in
Mm.
addition to being born prematurely. Your fascination with sound, from what I read and having talked to you, began quite early. Would you please tell us about your early life, what you remember of it, and how the sounds you heard nurtured your interest in music?
Sure. So, my early life for the well, I do want to say first of all that I lost my sight, despite the fact I lost my sight after birth. I didn't recall seeing at all. So, this no light perception as of now. you can basically regard me as being blind almost from birth. So having that in mind, my auditory world began very early. And as for, the musical sounds that I heard, it started with radio and television, songs from, radio programs and music videos and whatnot on television.
Yeah.
And then through a keyboard that my parents bought me when I was about 3, I
Wow.
started to, gradually go into this world of music. I could actually play something on it and make some, intelligible sounds out of it. And at age 4, I started piano lessons. Now, before that, of course, I had to be introduced to it first.
Hmm.
I remember it was at my mom's classmate's house, and that was where I first fell to the piano. And at first, I thought, wow, what a giant instrument. Because, if you were to, okay, if you can imagine a keyboard from, I don't know, like from one, two, three, four, five, yeah, from like C2,
Uh-huh.
which is the an octave above the lowest C on the piano,
Right.
to C6, which
Hmm.
is about 2 octaves above middle C. So if you that was the keyboard range I had at that time.
Uh-huh.
So if you can imagine, it's like 40 something keys perhaps,
Yeah.
and all the way you double it to 88. That's going to be a lot of playground. So I thought,
Yeah.
okay, that's just an interesting little instrument. Yeah, we've got a nice giant ahead of me. Okay, that's nice. And anyway, so that was what fascinated me at very first, and I started lessons at age 4, and this impression of the piano being like a playground of sounds has stuck with me, and that's my overall approach to some, especially when it comes to improvisation, and when I have to play things for people, I would take advantage of the different colors that the instrument affords, because that's the beauty of what we have on the piano.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love the expression, the playground of sound. That's really something great, I think, to
Thank
carry
you. Yeah.
forward. Just remembering it's a playground of sound, especially when practice gets a little dull. So we have to remind
Yeah.
ourselves that this is a playground of sound. So we need to enjoy and explore that more fully. That's that
Yeah.
you've given us something really great just right there.
Thank you.
Um,
And I do want to say, from what I know of you, not only are you a pianist, but you are also a composer.
yes,
And I'm sure as a composer, you feel very much, the urge to explore the complete range that an instrument affords you.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I kind of felt that when I started, not that I'm a composer or anything, but it's like, wow, I am getting to know this new toy, and it's a big one
Yeah.
for that
Yeah.
matter.
Thank you for making that analogy because it's very true. When I started composing just a little over a couple of years ago,
Hmm.
just opened an entirely new world. So I can from that perspective, as you so kindly pointed out, really get some sense of how you must have felt when you went from that little 40 note keyboard to this big instrument. That
Yeah.
must have been very exciting for you.
Yep, indeed.
Yeah. I'm really blown away, honestly, David, by your many talents and capabilities. I just, I've known you for almost 6 years, and I'm really blown away by the way you function in the world, which is
Hmm.
obviously quite different than the way most of us function. Our interactions are so much like, you know, the interactions you and I have are so seemingly, and for lack of a better word, normal. I don't even. I guess your blindness doesn't really register with me because you use technology. You have these great technology. You have just been so innovative in creating a life that is
Hmm.
really phenomenal. It really is. It blows me away. And
Well, you know,
sometimes,
sometimes
yeah.
I fiddle around with technology. Other times, I guess I plow through technology, for the lack of
Well,
a
yes,
better
and
word.
from some of your Facebook posts, I know we have traveled those struggles with you a little bit, but you
Yeah.
always find these amazing solutions, and you're honestly speaking a language I think that a lot of people would be like, "What is he talking about?" But you're very, very technologically savvy, and it's just pretty amazing. And I just credit your drive, to do what you want in your life. And I know you get a lot of support, but still, the drive and the innovation has to be there on the part of the person. So I just think
Mm.
that's really incredible.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, would you tell us a few of those tools that you use to navigate the world, both just in general and then particularly about your music?
So, navigating the world, yeah, I've been thinking about this for a while. Spoiler alert. I got it through the grapevines regarding the um, our talk today. So, I've been thinking about this particular question for a while.
Good.
As for navigating the world, there are multiple folds. Um, I do, I do use a sighted guide, meaning another person in this case. So, but I also sometimes would use OCR, or like video related programs to help me function when I'm alone and
Wow.
independent. So basically, the phone camera will help me, will help me, kind of provide a visual feedback for me.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
whether it be an AI based solution, or calling a volunteer to
Uh-huh.
read something,
Uh-huh.
or even calling friends to do so, I'll need to use my camera to point, at objects or things around me.
Uh-huh.
So despite the fact that I might not have very good camera skills, with guidance and, tilt left, tilt right,
Yeah.
point forward, raise your phone above, etc. There are ways for me to, navigate that. So that's part of navigating the physical world. That said, you also mentioned, functioning, what's the word? In cyberspace, perhaps?
Yeah, that would be a good way to put
Yeah.
it.
So that kind of navigation is, very much an auditory one. So I have a screen reader, which I use, NVDA, which is free of charge. It stands for, non-visual desktop access. You can get it for free.
Interesting.
This is on my PC. On the iPhone, I have
Hmm.
VoiceOver, which is built into the system.
Hmm.
But all of these, assistive technology solutions, they are talking solutions basically. So you would hear, a computer voice reading things to me, whether it be websites, articles, things that I'm researching on, if I'm doing word processing, telling me what I'm typing, formats, bold, you know, capitalized, not capitalized. It reports back everything.
Yeah.
So essentially, I just used everything like what you guys are doing,
Yeah.
albeit that my computer and phone are very talkative.
Yeah. So your ears almost literally are your eyes, basically.
Yes, right.
Yeah. That's
So
that's fascinating. Yeah.
that's another part of, navigating, if you will,
Okay.
in cyberspace.
Yeah. So let's get into the music part. I mean, it makes sense, obviously, that you learn music by memorization, although I think you've mentioned before that there are Braille programs, but
Yes.
I think so many pianists and musicians in general have so much trouble with memorization, but that's the way you learn music.
Mhm.
So would you describe your process for learning music and what practical tips might you share with us, and how do you use your memorization skills in your practice?
So, couple of things. One is music theory is your friend. Let's just put it that way. I found that, especially with common practice era composers, by that I mean people who mainly use functional harmony and keys and rhythm, whatnot. So the basics. Think your, I don't know, late high Baroque to early 20th century, or people who write in this idiom.
Uh-huh.
There are things that I hold on to as landmarks. For example, cadences,
Mm-hmm.
phrase similarities, if there are any,
Mm-hmm.
and structural cue points. For example, end of the, if you were talking about a sonata, end of the exposition, or end of the, primary theme,
Uh-huh.
whatnot. Just stylistic cue points that I would use as mental markers when I learn a piece of music. And then as I break it down into these chunks
Mm-hmm.
using the cue points, I would memorize sort of broken down bits of the music, whether it be using a recording or using right now, with the computer, there are ways to get sheet music onto the computer, and you can both listen and view. So for me, I use MIDI.
Yeah.
And there are other ways. If you use MuseScore, there are solutions where I've seen solutions rather that would make NVDA and other screen readers like it, tell you quarter note, uh, or eighth note, or whole note, holding for how many beats,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
how many bars, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are ways to navigate, and of course there's Braille. Now I'm not exactly a Braille reader, in a sense that I do use Braille, but not my primary way of learning music right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Braille can give clarity and accuracy, but to me, and this is very personal, Braille is rather slow,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't really showcase the relation between the hands in a way that is
Ah, wow.
intuitive.
Yeah.
And so, I find listening more helpful in that way. And now, of course, with MIDI,
Mm-hmm.
it's even easier, because if I really, have a I'm struggling with a passage,
Mm-hmm.
I could slow it down, or I could just use my, arrow keys on the computer and look at every note that is on there. Of course, not because of the MIDI. Sometimes things can be, wrongly engraved, etc., etc.,
Right.
um, which I can check against the recording,
Mm-hmm.
and that'll help me autocorrect.
Yeah.
I've gone very fluent with autocorrecting mistakes that I that I can hear. So
Yeah.
that's yeah, that's a long-winded answer, but hopefully that kind of gives you a sense of how I learn music and how I, memorize. Usually, it's going through this process of breaking things down by structure or phrase,
Yeah.
and then going from that point forward, if you will.
Well, I think you've just outlined a beautiful pattern for score study for all of us, honestly.
Well,
Um,
here's
you know, I
here's
mean,
another thing though, that I do want to add. Yes, my process takes time. It takes a long time.
yeah.
But the good thing about it is, once I finish it,
Hmm.
the majority of what I have worked on
Hmm.
stays with me in my memory,
Okay, so
and so
see,
it
yeah, go
stays
ahead. I'm
longer.
sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I just, you know, I think memorization is something that's being talked a lot about among musicians these days, especially pianists. And I know Noah Kayagama of Bulletproof Musician just started a course on
Mm.
memorization. And I'm just thinking that what you said is so profound. It seems so simple, but it's so profound because we often think that doing more faster gives longer lasting results, but you're really proving the point that building this meticulous foundation, really spending the time that it takes to solidify all of this from the ground up,
Yeah.
gives more dependable, long lasting results and therefore is much more efficient, it sounds like.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It for me, I could play you things that I learned, I don't know, 15 years ago or
yeah,
10
which
years
is
ago
incredible.
or
Yeah,
5 years ago, whatnot.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
could put something down and pick it up again and it will still stay with me. And if I do need a reminder, I'll just listen to a recording and be like, "Oh, I remember what I did in that." Okay.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And things
Yeah,
start kind of coming back to me.
yeah. So how many times, I mean, I guess you listen to, when you say you listen to it, do you listen, I know you listen to the MIDI, but do you also listen to other performers
Yes, I
playing
do.
the piece? Okay.
Yeah, by
So
recording, I do mean a general.
that's
Uh,
what I thought. Okay. So how many times do you have a set number of times you listen to a piece before you start working on it yourself or does that,
Depends on the difficulty of the piece. If you
yeah.
depending on what you ask. If you're talking about something like a Prokofiev sonata
Hmm.
versus maybe a Bach fugue or a Mozart sonata, whatnot. The requirements and the stress of notes, if you will, is different.
Or
And
the Goldberg variations that you recently performed your last doctoral recital, which
yeah,
was
thank
a
you.
phenomenal performance, may I add.
Oh, thank you.
I think it'd be wonderful if you gave us a little bit of insight as to how you approached those, and because variations on the same theme, get a little
Well,
tricky maybe.
you know, first of all, the Goldberg variations, for those of you who might not know this, is basically like a chaconne, meaning it's it's a set of variations based on a bass line. Therefore, it's based on a bass line. Get it?
Yep, yep.
And so, the one that is structural, immovable, is the bass.
Mhm.
And you can also kind of stretch it and say it's the harmony that the bass implies. Well, you can say that for the major keyed variations, not the minor keyed variations, which there are three in this set,
Mhm.
meaning 15, 21, and 25.
Uh-huh.
So, knowing this structural concept, for me, it's first of all, I'll need to be familiar with what is coming up
Yep.
at every bar. So when I listen to it, I'm familiarizing myself with what's coming up with the bass. No matter what he does, he will, stay the same with that. And then I will focus on, the intricacies. What's going on top?
Yep.
What are the melody lines?
Hmm.
What are the counterpoint voices and what they're doing?
Hmm.
Since Bach is very faithful in sticking with the bass, it's pretty easy to follow the trajectory once I have this line already worked out in me. So the overall memorization process when I first learned it took about, I would say, 2 months.
Which seems
To,
like a very short time to me.
yeah, it can be, but yeah,
Yeah.
it took about 2 months, and then it's um like a long stretch of familiarizing with it and making sure that I won't make a single mistake
Hmm.
or being tripped up by one of those variations. That
Right.
took another month almost. So that would, I spent about 3 months just with the score
Yeah.
or music for that matter, without me putting too much interpretation or choices or ornaments or whatever. That comes a little later as
Yeah.
far as stylistic interpretations. But for me, the first 2 or 3 months that I did was just facing the music, literally.
Yeah. 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 That's incredible. Um, let's
Thank
go
you.
back a little bit to one of the first things we were talking about. I know that teaching is a
Mhm.
very important aspect of your musicianship. What do
Mhm.
you feel, why do you feel it's so important? And what are the things you feel that you are particularly able to impart to your students? Yeah.
Well, actually, I'll just share with you something that happened this week.
Hmm.
Very, very fresh in my mind. I was teaching a student. We are learning right now a three-part invention. This is her first three-part invention,
Hmm.
and itself a very difficult one. It's not. Did I say invention or variation just now?
Invention, I think.
That's good. Thank you. I thought we were talking about. Okay. Anyway, so going back to this, so she is currently learning invention number 11 in G minor, which is not the most simple of or shall I say symphonia, for the lack of a better, I mean, yeah, the official term for this is symphonia, but the
Okay.
three-part invention, I hope that is
Yeah.
understandable. Anyway, so we're just mapping out the first couple of lessons. We're just mapping out structural cue points. I gave her three big structural cue points, meaning
Hmm.
cadences,
Hmm.
that she can latch onto as markers.
Hmm.
And I also gave her some fingerings and pointed things to her that what are the voices doing? When is the main motif happening in what voice? And stuff like that. And she told me, after we didn't go into specifics like how to play this just yet, but she told me at the end of this week's session, she said, quote, "I'm beginning to love Bach at last," end quote.
Wow.
Now,
Yeah.
the previous teacher that she learned with, unfortunately, didn't give her a very good impression of Bach, and
Mm.
so I was thankful that you know just a couple of lessons in,
Hmm.
and we're just spending time with the material
Yeah.
and teaching her ways to make it easier for her to practice and organize her practice around. And she's already beginning to see the logical connection of the music, and she's beginning to love Bach. Now, that to me is more important than, I can play by the third lesson, the entire thing, or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, because, my, again, going back to connection here, I've established a connection between her and the music.
Yeah.
And I think that once that's done, it will cultivate in her a love for the music. So I feel like, I'm very, some people might think that this is a very humble approach, but I think it's a very practical one. That once there is a love of music that is established, you know, she can go far. And one day when she no longer is studying with me and she moves on either to another teacher or just self learning, she'll take this with her
Yeah.
and she will have you know a, already a tool that she can use on her own.
Well,
So,
yeah, I think this is such a wonderful gift, David, that you're giving her. And I think of all the years of piano lessons that I have had,
mhm,
and there's not one teacher before now that I can think of who sat me down and talked to me about cadences and incorporated theory into my lesson and talked to me about the voices and all of those different things. It was just, okay, learn from here to here and come back. And then we would, talk a little bit about loud and soft and,
Mm.
all these kind of things, correcting quote mistakes, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I think your approach is so, I would say, different and extremely practical and helpful. And I think when musicians can have something to hold on to, like you've given her, when musicians can hear the beauty in that melody or the beauty in that structure, you're giving her a gift she's going to carry with her the rest of her life, with no matter what she does, whether she
Yeah.
continues with piano or music or whatever.
Hmm.
That's something that you've done to impact her life in a significant way. So I
Yeah.
think you just gave us volumes right there. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, and let's go back to your own performing.
Mm.
I've watched you. I someday we're going to meet in person. Okay, I just know somehow it's going to happen. We have
Yes.
been so close so many times, and it has yet to happen. But I have seen you perform on video,
Mm.
and your presence on stage is just palpable. You're so comfortable. You're such a good you gauge the what the audience needs at such a
Mm.
phenomenal level, and one of the perfect examples is your recent recital with the Goldberg variations, because you were telling me that you wanted to give them the good basic information but not get too deep into the weeds, that you
Right.
lost them. And that, I think, the explanation, the introduction you gave to that piece was just so perfect, and the
Thank you.
audience was just, I could feel, you could hear, I mean, you could hear a pin drop. Everything was just so silent, and
Mm.
it just impacted the audience so phenomenally. So,
Thank you.
would you talk a bit about the way you talk to your audiences before you begin playing, and what are you trying to do when you talk to them? This is really hard for a lot of people to do, but it seems very easy for you.
It's not. I am a bad public speaker. I don't know how to talk off script. So, okay. I'm being honest in here. I've made mistakes. I've been like, oh, what I'm gonna say next, I don't know. So that has happened before, believe it or
Yeah,
not.
happens to all of us, I think.
Yeah, that's true. But a couple of things. One is well, right now with artificial intelligence, I have another way of doing it, which I will get to. But at first, I I say to myself, what am I accomplishing with this? Now, of course, there are church friends, people who are outside of the uh, music school coming to a public concert like this, and I don't want them to be like, "What on earth are we listening to in here?" Since it's an aria with 30 variations, it's going to be 70 minutes of music. And since I'm taking
Yes,
every repeat,
yes,
except the last reprise of the aria, that one I'm not taking any repeats, but
yeah.
the others I am taking. So you can basically imagine the sheer length that we're going through in here.
Hmm.
And so one of the things that I wanted to do is to give them enough material that they can take away with
Hmm.
and latch onto as I play.
Hmm.
So, going back to the structure of it, it's an aria with 30 variations, where the bass line is very much consistent.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, let's just start with the background
Yeah.
information. A little bit. An alleged tale of involving an insomniac and whatnot. This has already been debunked that it is not exactly true. But the audience is not in for a musicological discussion here. So it's okay that I just tell the tale and say that, hey, this is whether or not this is true, we do not know, but at least the name's stuck and we have the music here.
Right.
And then move on directly to demonstrating the bass line because you need it to help you anchor it.
Yeah.
So I just did that, and I took this idea to artificial intelligence of all things because I was like, I needed an audience. Let's see if this generative AI could actually be of some help.
Uh-huh.
And it's very interesting though. It actually, maybe it's because of the algorithm, but it first of all affirmed my approach, which can be alarming when you hear that. A computer algorithm affirming your approach. What's going on in here, right? But it did suggest, ways to, bridge the conversation so that it sounds flowing and whatnot. And it gave me a model script that I could, think about. It did give some suggestions to how I can improve on it. So there, yeah, I did cheat with AI, but the the initial approach was my own. That I wanted, some key information being dispensed with. Is that the correct
Yeah,
word? I don't.
that works. Sure.
Key information being dispensed, and then we can get into the performance. Luckily, this whole opening prologue only took about 3 minutes, and it wasn't that long or wordy, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, I thought it was the perfect length. And, it still goes back to the fact that you understand what your audience needs. And I think that's a huge gift that you have as a performer because that's not often the case.
Huh.
And I think it's so easy for us as musicians to
Be
maybe
nerdy?
over expound, get into the weeds a little bit because we're so enraptured, by what we're doing and
Yeah, and get a little nerdy about everything,
get a little
right?
nerdy about everything. Yeah, yeah, a little bit, and then we lose everybody, but I think the way you did it was you gave the audience something that they could hold on to, and it engaged them throughout the process. I mean, it was obvious, the proof is in listening to this recording. So
Thank you.
I
Well,
think you do have a particular talent for that.
well, what I learned from my colleagues, both professors and classmates and friends, is that the key thing to this talk with the audience business
Mhm.
is what are we listening for?
Yeah.
This is the question that I feel like the audience will have for us. Hey, we're here, we're listening to what you're playing, but what are we
Mhm.
listening for?
Yeah.
What are things that, you know, um, we can get out of it?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so by focusing on what they can listen for,
Hmm.
um, that would make the whole experience a little more meaningful. And so I suggest that those who might be struggling with it to think about, you know, as a listener, and I as a side note, I think we all need to be good listeners in addition to musicians, because
Absolutely.
it is such a music is such an art that you need to love and learn to enjoy. And
Yeah.
so, you know, being a good listener is important. But that said, from a listener's perspective, what are you listening for? If you were to pick this thing up for the very first time, and many people actually are in that situation, what are you listening for?
Hmm.
That would be my starting point as to preparing a, anything. If it is a lecture of 15 minutes, I could
Hmm.
expound a bit.
Hmm.
But if it is a beginning talk
Hmm.
that opens the recital, then I need to be very brief about it and always combine talking with a bit of demonstration so that they
Yeah.
will be, oh, okay, I'm hearing this now. Yeah, that makes sense. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It'll click with them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's excellent advice. Okay. You had such a lovely time. I could tell you were really enjoying your performance today experience
Oh, yes.
immensely. And you were featured in their Young Artist series. You were Young Artist in Residence
Yeah.
and as a guest on what was then Fred Child's show.
Yes.
How did you feel about that experience and what made it special for you?
So let's move the uh, timeline back to November of 24, where I recorded everything, and
Yeah.
did the program.
You also did a piano puzzler too. I forgot to mention that.
Yes, I did. Yes.
Yes, which was
It
so great.
it was one of the last piano puzzlers with Fred and Bruce, Bruce Adolph and
Uh-huh.
Fred Child,
Yeah.
before Fred handed the baton to Valerie now.
Yeah.
But going back to the recording process, it was a lot of fun. The producer asked me to select pieces that would basically demonstrate me as an artist. And so I chose pieces that had a great range of the keyboard, that
Mm-hmm.
had contrast,
Mm-hmm.
and showcases my musicality. And interestingly, Fred grouped the composers in a way that I didn't realize that I did it, but it turned out that I chose two of the pieces were by composers that lived longer, meaning that they had a longer life, and then three of the pieces were composers that passed away young in their 30s. And so
Interesting.
he just grouped these together in a
Yeah.
way that is very intuitive, and I didn't realize that he did it until when I heard the final product. It was first broadcast on air on January 27th, evidently and coincidentally, the birthday of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, which is one of the composers that I chose for that particular recording session.
Yeah.
And so they chose the date for the broadcast. I was like, wow, you're playing that on Mozart's birthday. Really cool. Anyway, so it was first broadcast, so January of 27 of 25. And so I realized that, wow, he knew how to group these things in a way that is very intuitive and somewhat fun and also informative. And so I didn't realize that I actually unwittingly created this little group, and he latched onto it. So we recorded the interview and performance in the studio, Mod Moon Warehouse Music Studio. And then the next day, I had an outreach concert with young kids, kids that are in elementary school. It was a whole school of children. I had two half-hour sessions with different grades. So the whole school basically heard me play bits and pieces. I chose music again that demonstrated the piano in a full range aspect, from the very loud to the very soft, with different dynamics, moods, and characters, and I interspersed it with short commentary. So that was day 2, and in the afternoon of that recording day, I was in for a surprise because on the itinerary it didn't list anything. It was blank, but it did say that I needed to be at the studio to record. And so I wasn't prepared for what I was actually, I wasn't prepared for what's going to happen. But
Uh-huh.
when I arrived, they told me that Bruce Adolph, they actually got Bruce Adolph in the studio live, and I would record with him. And so that was a surprise,
Yeah.
for me, because frankly they had known that I wanted to be a contestant
Mm-hmm.
on the Piano Puzzler,
Uh-huh.
and so they filmed me. Yes, they filmed me and recorded me on audio. So audio and video are both there, and we did the show. I also during the recording process for performance day today, one of the days that I spent, I also recorded a short video of myself playing, and we did a social media short for Instagram. So overall, it was like 2 or 3 days of recordings, an outreach concert with a little surprise thrown in the middle. And it was very, very interesting, fun, and almost starstruck, if you know what I mean, because
Yeah.
I've listened to Performance Today, I've listened to Piano Puzzler for a long time, and
Right.
been a long time fan, and so to be able to actually face the voices behind the microphone and talking to them live and playing with them
Yeah.
on the piano and whatnot, it's a lot of fun just to you know be there. And as a person who has a love for the radio,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it it speaks volumes personally for me.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. Had to
I
be really
really enjoyed
thrilling
it.
for you, I can imagine. Yeah. Yeah. And just being able to do that impromptu says a lot about, your capabilities and as a musician, and very, very impressive.
Thank you.
Um, okay, so let's move a little bit to competitions. You've participated in several,
Yeah.
maybe not a plethora, as you said,
Hmm.
but how do you, and you've won them, how do you feel? I mean, do you feel competitions are important? What role, let's see, what role do you feel that they play? Are they, I mean, do you advise people to participate in competitions? There's kind of a conversation about that, whether their competitions are worth it. What did you get out of it? What do you think about them in general? Are they necessary?
Well, first of all, this is a very touchy subject, so I
Yeah,
want to approach this with caution.
yeah.
So regarding competitions, I've participated in, a, you know, not a lot, but some, and I've won some and lost some.
Hmm.
I do have to say that a lot of this competition field can be varied because you're going out there and you're sharing the music with whomever gets to hear you, whether it be an audience or some jury members or a combination.
Hmm.
And they are to make the decision, obviously. That's out of your control.
Hmm.
That said, they have their own convictions and interpretations of the music.
Hmm.
And, during the half an hour, 15 minutes, whatever that you have on stage, you know, they will have to make a decision based on all of these aspects, your performance, and they have their own like views on it. So, do you agree with them? Do you not agree with them? That's something that you cannot control.
Yeah,
So there is an aspect of unknown. There's an aspect of something is coming and I don't know what.
yeah.
Now, is this stressful? It is. Can the results be shocking? Yes.
Hmm.
But, I believe that competitions are a way, not the way, but a way
Yes.
for people to get to know who you are as a musician.
Ah,
And however, I've tried and I've done my own sort of recovery, if you will, from losses. And, at the end of the day, this loss won't define who you are as a musician.
yeah.
Is not
That's
going to
hugely
define who you are as
important.
a musician.
Yeah.
So, you know, it might not play with the jury,
Hmm.
but your interpretation is your interpretation. I mean, I've watched a lot of competitions as well. I mean, not to the effect that I'm actually following any competitions, but I've noticed
Sure.
as I watched that some of the performances that received lots of cheering from the audience ended up either not snagging the prize that we are hoping that they would get, or being left out of the finals, if you will, entirely. Or
Yeah.
so, the audience approval, I think at the end of the day is more important. But that said, it's great if you can get some, winnings onto your resume.
Yeah.
But if it is not, then you know it it's not the end of the world, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I have very limited experience with competitions myself, and I remember one instance where um, I performed a piece. I had listened to this multiple artists perform this piece,
Hmm.
and I I loved one particular interpretation. Not that I copied it, but I did like the tempo that this artist took with his piece. And
Hmm.
the judge came back with the comment that it should have been played much faster.
Hmm.
And I felt that that tempo that he suggested really lost a lot of the meaning of this piece.
Hmm.
I don't, I didn't feel like it fit with the style. And it really was a good lesson for me. And I think competitions, if they're viewed correctly, can be great learning experiences. And I think the most important thing about what you said is you learn a lot about yourself. I think also it can give you some confidence, and especially referring to your comment about the audience appreciation, the audience reaction
Yeah.
to your performance can let you know what the audience likes. And as performers, that is the most important. I mean, the judge, I just think it can be a really good experience if you have the right approach to it. It also
Hmm.
can be very defeating if you don't have the right approach to it. So I think you're right, it's a very sensitive topic.
Hmm.
Um, but I think you made some excellent points about um, maybe using competitions to get to know yourself better,
Yeah.
maybe solidifying your own approach, getting a little validation from the audience, which to
Hmm.
me is more important. And
Hmm.
if you win, great. It's obviously always nice, can look good on your resume
Yeah.
and all those kind of things. So I really appreciate your viewpoints on that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Um, you are now a doctoral candidate. Congratulations. I know
Thank
how
you.
hard you've worked for this. Um, what does that mean exactly that you're a doctoral candidate? What's left for you to do in that process to actually earn your doctorate? And once you do that, I don't know if you can see beyond that or not. That's probably your next, focus.
Hmm.
Are you thinking at all about what comes after that? What can we look forward to from you?
Well, I'm currently working on my essay, which is the last stretch for my doctorate. So this is the only item that's left right now that
Hmm.
I'm working on.
Hmm.
Um, my essay will actually talk about some of the things that we talked about earlier regarding performance, practice, and pedagogy, and how all of this vibe around blindness, if you will. So yeah, I will talk about um, from my perspective as a first-hand source. So that is something that I am looking forward to sharing more as I finish it.
Hmm.
As for what's ahead, my dream career, if you will, or job, is to be a faculty member at a university.
Yeah.
Because to me, this job combines both my connection with the stage
Yep.
and connection with the students.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can blend both teaching and performance in on one track, if you will,
Yes.
and at the same time, you know, make more connections between myself and the people around me, as well as the music that I'm sharing with them and they are playing for me. So all I'm saying is, you know, for my, if you will, New Year's resolution, since we're in 2026, my goals right now is to finish the essay so I can graduate,
Mhm.
and then being employed so I can enter into society in a way that is professional and edifying.
Mhm.
So that is
Mhm.
my small goals for this year. I have to say that for 2025 I accomplished all the goals that I set out to do, which
Yeah.
is completing my exams and completing my studies and recitals. So all of that is fulfilled nicely, and I hope that this year will help me you know get the remainder done so I can better complete my goals. So yeah, two small goals but very important ones that I hope
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
accomplish.
You're a very disciplined person. You're a delight to interact with, and I firmly believe in pursuing one's dreams. And this is a very realistic dream for you. I feel. I think any university would be extremely fortunate to have you. So, um, I'm always in your court, and look forward to what you're going to be able to do. And it's really been wonderful talking to you today. Thank you so much for sharing your wonderful insights. I think everyone who listens to this episode is going to get so much out of it. And thank you for making the time to do this.
Well, thank you, Lisa, for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a wrap for our episode today. I hope you really enjoyed it and that you'll join us next time on Talking Shop.